So 1921, monitor tower 128.8. TO 3168, Boston ground, pushback at discretion.
Serving ground, Delta 1920, come around the corner on November for the ramp.
1920, Boston ground, taxi to the ramp via Alpha Echo.
Ramp Alpha Echo, Delta 1920.
Air 33, turn right heading 140, rolling on expected takeoff.
Right 140. Break 3168, contact Boston Center 133.42, good day.
3342, Rick Air 3168, good day.
Subject 183, when reaching 13,000, reduced to 280 knots.
United 532, do you have the Boston Airport in sight, 1 o'clock, 12 miles?
Affirmative, United 532.
United 532, cross 10 DME at 3,000, cleared visual approach, runway 4 right.
Commodore 449, Sandy Tower, you're 5 miles in trail of an RJ, wind 190 at 15, runway 18 left, clear to land.
Clear to land, 18 left, Comair 449.
Welcome to the 7th installment of the Hendersonville Radio Control Club Show. This month, the gents in Halleck's Hangar take their show on the road and visit Lonnie Johnson to see the progress he is making on his giant-scale classic Waco build. Lonnie is currently applying fiberglass to the ailerons, and he invited us over to show how he gets great results every time. After that, Fred and Percy take the new wing they made for the Hacker, also with new ailerons, to the field for a test flight. We'll find out if adding control services to the wing helps the Hacker fly even better. Don't forget to put Saturday, October 17th on your calendar for the annual Chili Fly-In at Sanders Ferry Park in Hendersonville. This is a free, all-day event, so come out and watch fabulous radio-controlled airplanes take to the skies. Bring yourself, your airplanes, your kids, and even the dogs. This year, there will be several large planes in the air, and Jim Martin is coming all the way from Pennsylvania to put on a show. If you are new to RC aircraft, you can even try your hand and nerves with an introductory flight in one of the club's trainer aircraft. Since this is our chili fly-in, there will be several homemade secret recipe chili selections to choose from, as well as a full concession stand. This year, the air show is in memory of George Quinn, a respected airplane modeler in the Middle Tennessee area. He was well known and respected by many modelers in our club and surrounding RC clubs as well. We'd like to invite folks who have a plane that George built to come out and fly or display it. So don't forget, Saturday, October 17th for the best day by the lake.
Hi, welcome once again to the Craftsman's Corner. I'm Percy Halleck.
And I'm Fred Fisher.
And we're here today in Lonnie Johnson's workshop. Lonnie is our Hendersonville Radio Control president.
And Lonnie is working on a 30% scale model of a Waco YMF-5. The ailerons on Lonnie's plane on the prototype were metal, and Lonnie is going to show us how he is duplicating that appearance. After the Craftsman Corner segment is finished, we're going out to the flying field to try the Hawker with a wing equipped with ailerons. It's going to be interesting to see how this works, and I think we'll have Percy fly it.
Thanks a lot.
I'd like to welcome everyone to my shop, and as Percy and Fred had said earlier, I'm going to show you a technique of how to duplicate or fabricate a metal finish such as the Waco has on its ailerons. Now this is done using fiberglass and resin. Most sport models like we normally fly use monocoat, like which was demonstrated in the last episode. But if you want a custom finish, very smooth, and you're going to spray paint, fiberglass is the only way to go. Now, what you need to do before you start is finish sand the piece that you're going to work on. Remove as many imperfections in the surface as you possibly can. Fiberglassing will forgive some sins, but they all have to be small ones, very small ones. So this piece has been final sanded all the way up to 220 grit. The supplies that you're going to need to do this, first of all, 3/4 ounce fiberglass cloth. It's called 3/4 ounce fiberglass cloth because the weight of this cloth is 3/4 of an ounce per square yard. And as you can see, it's just like silk. The next thing you're going to need, polyester glass resin. Not finishing resin, but glass resin. This is used for applying the fiberglass to the wood. Mixing cups. You also need paper towels. Accelerator or hardener for the fiberglass polyester resin. A brush. Okay? Get a good one. This one here is a Grumbacher Academy. A pair of scissors to cut the cloth with. A mixing knife for mixing the resin and the hardener. Acetone for cleanup. A squeegee, like this. A scalpel for cutting the cloth. Sanding bars. And 100 grit sandpaper. The object of the maneuver here is to try to get this surface as level as you possibly can. So, what we want to do is first apply this cloth to the surface. You take a piece of cloth, been cut oversized, lay it on the surface like this. Now, what I'm doing is laying this out and brushing it down with my hands to try to build some static to hold the cloth to the surface of the wood, as you can see how it's laying out here. The next thing we want to do is mix the resin. Now, don't try to do more than 1 ounce at a time because of the working time of the resin. You really can't do much more than 1 ounce. So, take the resin, pour in about 1 ounce, like so. Now, this says to put about 12 to 14 drops per ounce. 12 to 14 drops per ounce in 70-degree weather will give you about a 40-minute to an hour work time. We don't want that long. So I put in usually about 20 to 21 drops per ounce. That speeds up the cure, gets it harder faster. So take this and mix the resin very, very thoroughly. We've got this all smoothed out and we're ready now to apply the resin. What we want to do is start in the center and work our way out. Okay? And you want to lay it on very heavy, like so. Now you'll notice that this cloth is going to lift up on you. That's fine, because you're going to push it back down anyway. Okay? Just dab this resin into the cloth, get it thoroughly saturated and into the wood. And you're going to say, oh, Lord, we're adding all this weight to this thing. Look at all this resin that's going on here. Well, don't worry about it. I'm going to show you how to fix that in just a minute. Now, I'm being very careful around these edges, especially at the front, because I have piano hinges on here, and I don't want to get the resin down into the barrels of the hinges. Okay, we've just about finished this piece right now as far as putting the resin on it, and it's pretty well saturated, and now we're ready for the next step. Brush goes in the acetone. We've placed a paper towel underneath the aileron because what we're going to do next is going to get resin all over everything. Take this squeegee. It looks terrible. Okay, it got a lot of resin on it. Now we're going to start taking resin off of this. The object here is just to get as much resin off as we can, but still force the contact of the cloth into the wood and just leave enough resin to bond the cloth to the wood. Okay, so what we do is take our squeegee and we come down like so. Okay, because you'll get a bead of resin on this, you want to get it off. You see how that now starts taking all the resin out of it. Now, the 20 drops that I put in here in this resin gives me about a 15-20 minute work time. Now, it'll take about 30 or 40 minutes for it to totally harden. Okay, now you can see that's done. All we have to do now is wait for it to cure. Okay, through the miracle of television, an hour has now elapsed. Okay, and we have this. Okay, what we need to do now is trim the cloth away from the part, and we can do that using a scalpel. And you just trim close to the edges with a scalpel or a pair of very sharp scissors, trimming very close to the edge of the part. And of course, this stuff is brittle on the edges, like so. This is 100 or about 150 grit paper. This is 100. And we'll use the sandpaper to clean up the edges. Take my sanding bar, and I'm going to just clean up the edges. You can see how it's starting to, the fibers are starting to peel off here. Okay? Now what I'm doing is sanding along that edge right there, basically cutting the fiberglass along the edge. See how it's starting to peel off here? What we have here is a fully covered aileron on both sides, and it has a fabric feel to it because of the squeegeeing and the removing of the resin. It still has the fibers. You can feel them in the finish. Next step is the flow coat. The object of the flow coat is this. Fill the weave of the fiberglass. Okay? Right now we have the fiberglass bonded to the wood. It's got a very intimate contact with it, but you still have the weave of the fiberglass exposed, and what we're wanting is a very smooth, flat, level surface. So what we next do is add another coat of resin to this, which is called the flow coat, and the object is to fill the weave of the fiberglass. So, get another mixing cup. Another ounce or 3/4 of an ounce of resin. Here again, I'm going to put about 20 drops on here. Mix it up real good, just like we did the first time. Take your brush. Make sure this is clean, that there's no... Now, what we want to do is, like I said, fill the weave of the fabric with the resin. So we just brush it on, just like if you were brushing on paint. Very thick. You say, God, here we go with that thick stuff again. Aren't we adding weight? No, not really. Because we're going to take about 80 to 85% of this off with sanding. Just like we took about 95% of the resin off when we squeegeed it and applied the cloth. You see how shiny it's starting to get? You see I'm laying it on pretty heavy because I want to make sure I get that weave in the cloth filled. Now look at it through the light, try to make sure that I got everything covered. I don't see any weave coming through the resin. Done. That's how fast it takes to do a flow coat. Once again, through the magic of television, we have a cured flow coat. Okay, and as you can see, it's got a shiny surface. But if you look at it very closely when you do this, you'll notice there's little rises and dips and brush marks and drips and drabs all over the surface of the aileron. Now we have to level this. I like to use towels, lay them down on the bench to give yourself a pad. Now yes, this is a hard surface, but if you push down and you got a bump or glue or something on your bench, it's going to punch through the bottom of this. So you want to make sure you got some kind of a pad for this thing to lay on when you start sanding. Now, you start with 80 grit paper. You say, well, that's awful rough. Trust me, this stuff is tough. It's going to eat this paper down just as fast as you cut through this. Okay? So we want to start with 80 grit with a sanding bar. This is going to help to ensure that I get this surface level. So it's just start sanding like so. And as you can see, the scuffs are where I'm hitting the high spots. They're going first. And you can see how really uneven this surface is. And you just keep sanding on this. Usually you can do a side of this in about 15-20 minutes if you do it right. Get it the way you want it. Now you can see these areas here are the high spots. The clear shiny areas are the low spots. Now we'll keep sanding on this until we get as much of this out of the way or eliminated these low spots as we possibly can. Now once that all goes away, you're pretty much level. The next step in this process then is to come back with 100 and then 220 paper to final sand this to get it ready for priming. Okay? Once we've got this surface as clean and as level as we possibly can get it, we will then prime it with a high quality primer. I use Glass Coat epoxy primer. It fills in the sand marks. You'll come back and sand that with 320. May have to apply 2 or 3 coats of primer on there. Also, you may have some dings or anything that you've missed up to this point. They will have to be filled. This thing has to be perfect before you start adding any detail or the final finish on it. Now, for the dings, where you may have a little bit of a dent or something that needs to be filled, we'll use squadron green putty. You just take this and apply it, fill in the low areas that you may need, give it about 15-20 minutes, it's dry, you can sand it off, done. Once you've got the primer coat and the surface is level and as perfect as you possibly can, the next step to this is putting on what I call the gray coat. The gray coat is the first coat of color. You apply, in this particular case, it's going to be white, and I'll show you here in a minute. That is to show me if there are any other imperfections that I may have missed. Once I am satisfied with the gray coat that there are no imperfections and this is as good as I want it, I'm not going to be sanding anymore. Now you can sand the gray coat if you want to. You can apply more to it until you get it the way you want it, but you have, once that is done and you start applying surface detail, you will never touch this with sandpaper again. And it's got to be as good as it's going to get, because what goes on after this is the final coat of color for the airplane. So that's fiberglassing in a nutshell. It's very simple. It appears to be difficult, but if you use the right techniques, you get a very good result, and it's very simple to do once you've tried it. Just need some practice. Now I want to show you the result of all this work and what it looks like. This is the almost finished product that we're trying to get to with fiberglassing these ailerons. As you notice, if you can look real close, the surface is very level. It's already had surface detail added to it for simulating corrugation, rivets, things like that. The next thing that will happen with this is we will put a final coat of white on this. Clean it up very well before I spray it, but we're going to put a very thin coat of white, maybe 2 or 3 very, very thin coats of white on here to establish a base. The final color will be yellow. The white is on there to make the yellow pop, so that when I put the yellow paint on here, it should be brighter. But you can see from this, you got a very level, smooth surface. It's stable. It's something I can apply some detail to now. It provides a very good base for your painting and color schemes. And I highly recommend, you don't have to go into this kind of detail, but if you want a custom job, custom paint job on an airplane, and you're not going to use this open surface is not good for fiberglassing. This is fabric. But where you have a solid wood surface, I highly recommend that you use the fiberglass technique.
The Hawker flies really well with the conventional wing with a good bit of dihedral in it. But being experimentalists, we're going to try this with a wing that has ailerons, the movable surfaces at the rear of the wing. Has a slightly wider chord or width to the wing, same length, same wingspan, but these surfaces move up and down to control direction, and we want to see if that'll be an improvement or whether it makes any difference. Okay.
Elevator, up, down, rudder, left and right, ailerons, left and right. And that's one thing you want to make sure
The deal
is right.
That's correct.
Hey, hold on, just test the motor a little bit.
Okay.
All right, we're ready to go.
Okay. The old grinder.
Oh, I want to get some altitude here. Yeah, good.
That'd be a good idea.
Get these, You have to hold the aileron and turn a little bit sometimes. Wait till I get it going the other way. And I'll hand it over to you. Okay, there you go. Maybe turn to the right a little bit. Nice in the turn. See, once you get used to it, you make it turn nice.
It does nice.
All right, Greg. Son of a gun. You want to go get it?
Well, we had an opportunity to try out the Hawker with the new wing with ailerons, and Percy's going to tell you how it flew.
Well, the first thing we found out was that we had much too much movement in the ailerons, and it was very sensitive. So we made the flight, and after that we landed it and cut down the movement, and it turned out to be much better.
After trying it, and as Percy said, it flew pretty good, but the ailerons really don't improve the performance of the Hawker that much. And we'd say it's kind of a toss-up whether it's worth the effort to put ailerons on the plane or not. It flies so well without them, it really is not necessary.
We're going to keep it a 3-channel airplane.